Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Green Security Trust Summit. Great to see so many faces here virtually, and really excited to be here with all the leaders who keep healthcare running every single day. And thank you all for making the time today to spend some time with us. Before I talk about the future, though, I want to start somewhere simple. Healthcare doesn't run on software. I think you all know that. It runs on people, doctors, nurses, clinicians, and all the supply chain teams behind them. Also, the vendors, the service reps and partners who show up every day to support care. Healthcare runs on trust, thus the Trust Summit, and that's why we're all in this room today. Before we get going, I want to take a second on how we got here, because the last 2 years have been something special for Green Security. We're now trusted by more than 225 health systems, and 60 of those came on board just in the last year. On any given day, over 130,000 vendor reps move through our platform to do their work safely and get back to supporting care. 2 years ago, those numbers look very different. The reason they look like this now is sitting in this room, virtually, of course. You bet on us, you pushed us, and you told us where we were getting it wrong, and we listened. That growth isn't a vanity stat. It's the foundation for everything I'm about to talk about. You can't build a new category on a good idea alone. You build it on scale, on trust, and on a network big enough that the data actually means something. We have that now together, and it's what makes this next chapter possible. Now let's talk about the reality we all live in. Every hospital here depends on vendors. They're in your operating rooms. They're installing, maintaining, training, advising. They touch your most expensive assets and influence many of your most important decisions. And yet most health systems still manage them the way they did 20 years ago. Credentialing is over here. Supply chain doing other things over there. OR coordination sits somewhere else. Billing and reconciliation are way downstream. Every team is doing good work, but every system optimized on its own. Nobody owning the whole picture. And that's not a failure of effort. It's a failure of structure. You know, the part that surprises so many people you talk to, both inside and outside of healthcare, is that there is this influential workforce in your hospital that isn't on your payroll. The vendor reps, the service techs, contractors, and even the students and visitors that are walking through your halls. In a lot of the workflows in your health system, they outnumber your employees. And until recently, there's no system built to manage what they actually do. Not just who they are, but where they go, when they engage, and how that shows up in your outcomes. That gap is what we're here to talk about. For years, people asked why vendor management wasn't better. The honest answer isn't that healthcare ignored it. It's that the problem hasn't had a natural home. Credentialing sat in compliance, loaner trays with materials, OR coordination lived with peri-op, billing with finance, all the data sitting in silos. Nobody had the mandate or the visibility to connect it all. And without the connection, there was no category. We at Green Security learned something by listening to all of you. Every vendor workflow starts the same way, at the front door, at credentialing. Before a product is evaluated, before a case is ever scheduled, before an implant is ever scanned, and certainly before a PO is ever created. There's a single gateway moment, and that's who's allowed inside your doors. Once you see that, everything changes. Because whoever owns access owns the life cycle that follows afterwards. Now, we need to go from a checkbox to an operating system. Credentialing got treated as a compliance task for a long time. Necessary, but not strategic. That checkbox that I mentioned. What we've learned together, I think, is the opposite. Credentialing is infrastructure. It's the trust layer between your hospital and the outside world. It's where identity gets verified, where policy gets enforced, and ultimately where behavior becomes data. If you connect that gateway to what comes next, value analysis, surgical coordination, bill only, service verification, you don't just get a little more efficient. You get a whole new system of control and intelligence. So here's why we brought you all together today. What we're unveiling isn't a product, it's a category. We call it vendor intelligence and operations for healthcare. The idea is simple. One platform that manages every non-employee interaction in your health system, from access to decisions to cases to billing to insights. For the first time, vendor activity isn't fragmented, it's going to be orchestrated. Now, hasn't someone tried this before? That's probably what I'd be thinking. This all sounds good on a stage, but hasn't someone already tried to pull these pieces together? And it's a fair question. But the honest answer is no, at least not really. Plenty of companies own one single piece. Somebody owns credentialing, somebody else owns bill only, someone else case scheduling, and a few of the big players out there have tried to own more by buying their way there. Stapling a credential tool to a supply chain tool, to a billing tool. But buying the pieces isn't the same as connecting them. They ended up with 4 products under one logo and the same 4 silos still sitting underneath. The data never came together, so the lifecycle never came together. That's the difference. This was never a technology problem. It was a starting point problem. Everyone tried to build it from the middle, from the workflow they already owned. We're starting at the front door, at access, which is the one place every vendor interaction actually begins. That's why the pieces will connect for us when they didn't for anyone else. So no, this hasn't been done yet. Not because people didn't want it, but because nobody was standing in the right place to do it. We believe we are. We wake up every day thinking about how to make every action between health systems and their vendors faster, easier, smoother, and maybe even more joyful. Why with AI and why now? We think AI matters here for one reason. It removes friction. It lets a clinician participate without logging into one more system. It collects the evidence for value analysis instead of asking a committee to go hunt for it. It anticipates the workflow instead of reacting after something is already broken. We don't believe that it replaces human judgment. It clears the noise so that all your teams can use their own. And when the friction goes away, coordination becomes possible at a scale we've never had. So what does this mean for all of us? For hospital leaders, this is clarity, faster value analysis, cleaner bill-only workflows, fewer missed charges, better OR readiness, audit-ready access, lower operational risk, and visibility into something you've never fully had, how vendors actually interact with your health system. Not in theory, but in reality. And for our medtech and service vendor partners, it's alignment, clear standards, predictable access, real coordination around cases, and honest insight into adoption and usage, less guesswork and more transparency. And for our industry, it's something bigger. Right now, every vendor interaction throws off useful information. Think which product got evaluated, which reps drive adoption, how long a service call actually took, where are cases getting delayed. But today, that information dies in silos the moment it's created. Put it in one system, and it becomes something you can act on. A clear picture of how vendors and products are actually performing across your system. That's the layer healthcare has never had, and it's where the real value compounds over time. Categories don't show up all at once. They show up when the market decides the old way no longer scales. We believe we're at that moment, right? Margins are thin, complexity is high, and every inefficiency in the health system gets magnified. Fragmentation used to be tolerable, but now it's expensive. Vendor intelligence and operation exists because the industry needs it to. What's our part in this and what's yours? We're committed to building this out responsibly, not by forcing change, but by earning trust. Not by replacing your teams, but by giving them more to work with and not being alone. This category doesn't belong to us. It belongs to every leader in this room who wants safer access, smarter operations, and fewer surprises. It belongs to the partners who believe coordination beats chaos, and it belongs to an industry that's ready to move past silos. So for us, today isn't a launch, it's an invitation to help define what vendor operations should be moving forward, to shape how trust, access, and intelligence move through healthcare, to build something that's going to look obvious in hindsight and feel transformative in practice. 10 years from now, hospitals won't ask whether they need a vendor operations platform. They'll wonder how they ever ran without one. Our team here thanks you for all the trust that you've put in us. We thank you for partnering with us, and we thank you for being here to start this with us.